And the other thing that you mentioned when we had a chat last week, you mentioned with the startup accelerator programs, you've been through a couple of them. I guess firstly, what was the process in terms of talking to them and getting into one of them? And how did you find the experience overall?
Yeah, so I guess we've had mixed experiences going through some of the accelerator programs. We've been through 3 or 4 now. Initially, we just started with the university accelerators. So obviously the benefits of that, you get some genuine equity-free, some funds there to develop, further develop or market your platform. You're getting co-working space, and often the mentoring is really key. So after going through the university ones, we ended up going through ASTN, so Australian Sports Technology Network one, end of last year and the start of this year. And so that was really good in kind of pushing us in terms of getting ready for to start to get investment. And yeah, we had a really good experience with ASTN. So I guess with the accelerators at different points in the business, the accelerators were kind of beneficial to kind of push us further along. But there's so much information in a short period of time that it's really hard to kind of capture all that information and practice it, especially when you're focusing on developing a pitch and developing your pitching technique and talking about your business rather than improving your tech platform or your marketing campaign. So from that perspective, it's kind of balanced. And often it's interesting, you're working with people that have different goals and objectives and agendas from you. So trying to often align those is sometimes different. They might have different lifestyles or different different family situations, and so there's a bit of that hustle. They expect you to hustle 24/7, which part of the reason for developing the platform in the first place was a lot of coaches don't want to be working 24/7. They don't want to have those 8 jobs working for different clubs and schools and doing private sessions. They don't want to be working every evening and every weekend. And I guess, yeah, so we did have some challenges with some of the accelerators, I guess, over that mindset. I guess in the tech space that's fine, but yeah, coming from football background and having been through that process already, we did have some I guess some interesting conversations with some of the mentors around that in their experience. So I guess that's just something if you were going into an accelerator to make sure that your objectives for your business align with the accelerators prior to going before, making sure that the people that you're talking to are actually the people that are going to be running the program and are going to be mentoring you, because obviously a lot of people like to talk things up, and then when you go through the program it's a different experience. But overall, look, they've been really beneficial. Without the programs we definitely wouldn't be where we are here today.
Yeah, nice. Okay. And I think, again, going back to it, looking back on it, you've summarized it really well. But if you put yourself in the shoes of, the first 12, 18 months when you were going to meet the first accelerator, for example, that you ended up going on board with, what does that process look like? Is it essentially like a job interview? You pitch to them, it might be a couple of rounds and they give you a result, or is it more complicated than that?
Yeah, pretty much. You put in an online application, get some feedback for that. Generally, it's a few rounds of pitching, and I think that was pretty much the first time we pitched. We did get invited into a kind of a pre-accelerator intensive, which prepared you to pitch. So it was really good that the first accelerator we went through was a really early stage accelerator program. And really prepared us kind of well for future accelerators and future pitching, because having never pitched before, we had no idea what to do. So that really helped us.
Right. Awesome. Okay. And look, obviously now that you've been in even the sport tech space for a few years, you've gone through a few different accelerator programs. What are the best resources that you've found that have been really helpful? Obviously, whether it's a podcast or a meetup or a virtual meetup, what are some of the best things that you've sort of noticed along the way that would be really helpful for people that are trying to get into the industry now?
Yeah, I guess we're working quite closely with Sports Geek at the moment. They're pretty good in terms of Sean's pretty good in terms of his content and podcasts that he puts out on a regular basis, and obviously AS10, and Sports Tech Sport Tech Weekly. They've got a new podcast that's come out, and a newsletter as well every week. In terms of other podcasts and other resources, I guess it depends which stage you're at in terms of your business.
Right.
I mean, at the moment, we're listening to a lot of growth podcasts and a lot of stuff from Lenny Druchitsky, who was formerly from Airbnb and a few other companies. So he was head of growth there. So that's been quite good. But I guess, when we first started, we were listening to different things, and that's just evolved, and we just kind of switch up what we listen to and learn from over time and the different stage of where our business is at.
Right. Okay. And just on a final note, we were talking about obviously transitioning into the industry, the meetups, and the sort of essentially the hubs. Well, the ASTN is obviously a good one. There's the Sport Tech World Series that have theirs every year or so. Were there any others that I guess more like locally are easier to sort of make that initial introduction? Because I find that in Sydney it can. There are a couple, but obviously being relatively new to the industry, it's not something that's really easy to get into. How did you find that process?
Yeah, so down in Victoria, I've been involved in a few of the Startup Victoria events. They hold like a Founder Connect one, which is really good. And LaunchVic have a variety of different programs. So they fund a lot of the accelerators. They've got a lot of different programs that they fund as well. So those have been pretty useful over the last few years, just attending a lot of those and just looking out to see which different meetups and events. The problem with a lot of the meetups, they're at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, and again, with a young family, not too keen to head to too many of those on a regular basis. I mean, if there's an importance, then happy to do that. But so sometimes some of my co-founders who are a little bit younger than me, and they enjoy going to those and having a beer or two and chatting to some other people.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, look, James, thank you so much for coming on. We'll have links to your profile on the site when we share this, and very keen to, I guess, stay in touch and see how you guys go over the next few months and years.
Cheers. Thanks, Nicole. Thanks for the chat.
Awesome. Thanks, James.
Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to check out more of our content, go to sporttechdaily.com or follow us on social media across Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram.